Good afternoon and welcome to Celebration of Mind, Nebraska. We're coming to you live from the Strategic Air Command Space Museum. Is that the correct title of it, Mark?
Strategic Air and Space Museum.
Strategic Air and Space Museum, just outside of Omaha, Nebraska. And it is a lovely autumn day here. And with us right now is Mark Carson, the founder and president of Fat Brain Toys. Thanks for being here with us today, Mark.
Thank you.
And Mark, we're just going to touch on some basic questions about Celebration of Mind and specifically Fat Brain Toys' involvement with Celebration of Mind as well as Gathering for Gardner. So Mark, tell us a little bit about Fat Brain Toys.
So, guess should I look at you or the camera?
Look at the fine
all the fans out there. All right, Fat Brain Toys is really a retailer and developer of specialty and educational toys and games. So, we position it as we're kind of creating and selling those toys that you won't find at a lot of the big box retailers. So the good stuff is really the way we like to phrase it.
And a few years back, Fat Brain Toys expanded and began developing its own line of toys. Can you talk about Fat Brain Toy Co.?
Yeah. So, about 2006, we started developing our own line of toys. Really with a mission of just kind of filling in some niches of products that we didn't think were quite out there, with a real focus on kind of design centric toys, things that looked as beautiful as they function, but we also really gravitated. So initially there's a lot of building and construction toys, but we quickly moved into a little bit sort of brainy games, brain teasers, and really have diversified, and we actually have about 55 different products on the market today.
That's exciting stuff. So a year and a half ago, you and I were fortunate enough to go down to Atlanta and take part in our very first Gathering for Gardner. It was the 10th Gathering for Gardner, and that was a great experience for both of us. So tell us why Martin Gardner has become, since that experience, more of an inspiration for Fat Brain Toys and what we're doing at Fat Brain Toys.
I mean, I really think for me, Martin Gardner was just, he was fascinating, not so much, and I don't think he ever was really out there to seek credit for himself, and I'm sure he was probably embarrassed to have these events hosted in his name, but what he really stood for was, again, bringing math and science and technology down to kind of, an everyday level. And really kind of adding a fun component to math that I think so many people, so many kids especially, they think of math and they're like, oh, that's hard. I don't want to do that. And what Martin Gardner really did was, wrap fun around math, and so in the form of puzzles and games and brain teasers, and really made it something that a lot of things that I like to see is you're not. It's cool to be smart.
Yeah, absolutely. He made math accessible to the masses.
Absolutely.
So today we're really focusing on at our Celebration of Mind, we're focusing on something called STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. So tell us why STEAM is important to kids.
I mean, definitely over the last several years, the sort of a STEM movement has been coming about, and I think that additional the A there for arts is also important in that equation, because they really do go kind of hand in hand. I mean, you might on the surface think, well, what does a scientist have to do with art? There's actually a lot of crossover there, and a lot of great artists are great scientists, and vice versa. And I think really just uncovering sort of the depths of some of these minds. But the real whole thing behind STEAM is, again, that whole notion of going beyond, just what's, I think kids kind of fall into, again, that I don't want to work too hard at it, and I think STEAM really forces kids to kind of challenge themselves and really reach into their mind and challenge themselves with all those different disciplines, and I think for me, when those disciplines all kind of intermingle and come together, that's where the real magic happens.
I was talking with Paul Hildebrandt, who's here from Zom Tool. He was kind enough to come in. He's building a structure for us, and I asked him yesterday. So Paul, what's your background? Is it math? Is it what engineering? And he said, no, I'm an artist. And I think that, yeah, it's sometimes it's easy to forget just how much of a role art does play in all of this.
Absolutely. And I think, if you talk to Paul, I mean, my first impression would be, wow, he's a hardcore math guy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, what he builds, or what even Zom Tool allows you to build is could definitely be art as much as it is science.
So this is our second celebration of Mind that Fat Brain Toys has hosted, and talk a little bit about how we got involved with Celebration of Mind, and why does Fat Brain Toys sponsor a Celebration of Mind event?
Yeah, so was it I guess a year and a half ago, you and I attended a gathering for Gardner in Atlanta, and there was, I don't know, that was such a mind-blowing experience to be a little cliche there, but frankly, I mean, a lot of it was over my head, and especially with the application of some of the true math stuff that was going on. But I was really inspired. It was like there's so much to this, and it's like, okay, if we could just take a little piece of that, bring it back to Nebraska, and maybe focus a little bit more towards our demographic, which is a little bit more on the children's side. Wouldn't that be a great event? And I hadn't even realized until we got there that there was this Celebration of Mind events held every year, and so I was. As soon as I realized, I was like, you know what? I'd love Fat Brain Toys to get behind that, and if we can inspire one kid, that'd be a great thing. So we kind of launched into that last year. Attracted some great different speakers and demonstrators of some different things, and kind of learned a little bit. And this year, I think we made a even bigger and better event.
Absolutely. I remember we were the first ones to put our red thumbtack in the state of Nebraska, and we were the only ones, and I think...
That's right, the only one really in the Midwest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Mark and I are fortunate enough we get to travel the world during the winter months, and we get to go to some great places to shop for toys, which is a tough job, but somebody has to do it. So over the years, we've come in contact with some really amazing individuals, and who have subsequently ended up creating some great relationships, and we've licensed several concepts, games, puzzles over the years. Talk about some of the people that we've come in contact with who have had a direct relationship with Gathering for Gardner.
Yeah, I mean, probably the two that immediately come to mind, and you'll have to, if I'm leaving anybody off, you'll have to help me out, but Ivan Moskovich is one, and then Nicholas Kravata. And both of those, I think, are just great examples of somebody that you would almost expect to find at a Gathering for Gardner. I mean, they're mathematicians, they're artists, they're engineers, they're science. They're everything wrapped all in one. And they're just you sit down and you talk to them, and you just reveal the depth of their their understanding of some of these subjects, and it almost isn't a surprise. The fantastic inventions that come out of their brains.
It is truly an experience. So you have the opportunity right now to speak directly to parents all over the world. Explain to these parents right now the importance of putting an educational toy, game, or puzzle into the hands of their children, and what type of impact that can have on their child.
I mean, I think the big thing for me is I was liking it to, maybe I'll throw a little kind of athletics analogy. So I used to, my son, he used to, playing around basketball in the driveway, and he, like most people, he could do well with his lead hand, his right hand, but he always had a weak left hand. And so I would tell him, and I'd work with him and say, okay, spend twice as much time with your left hand, dribbling with your left hand, as you do with your right. And I think that's what we got to do with all these other disciplines, is that parents, I think, get into this thing of, oh, my kid doesn't like math, so we're just not going to do that. We're just going to focus on all those things that they are good. Now, there's something to that, is focusing on what their natural abilities are, but you've got to expose them and really challenge them to do some of those disciplines that maybe are not natural. And eventually, I mean, those all come back and relate to each other, and that's really I think what we're really trying to do with a lot of our products is, again, draw out, some of our brain teasers are not easy. They're not supposed to be.
No.
And so parents shouldn't be afraid to challenge their kids a little bit and really make them step away from the TV a little bit, make them sit down and challenge their mind a little bit and kind of go beyond their comfort zone.
We'll push the envelope here for a minute, but I think you'll agree that we've seen a definite separation when it comes to talking about science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. That it definitely leans towards boys. Does gender matter when it comes to STEAM?
I think there still is a little bit of a bias out there, and I'm sure that's something that's just rooted in generations of it's just the way things have been done. But I don't get it. I don't understand why it's still that big of a topic, but it is still there. So Debbie Sterling from GoldieBlox, I think she just wrapped up a presentation, and we're really glad to have her on board as another spokesperson of promoting engineering for girls, and really starting at a very young age. And I think that's where it's got to start, of just dispelling this notion that if it's an engineer has got to be a boy, or what have you. So it's just it's kind of a crazy notion, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are going to continue watching, Debbie will be joining us shortly to talk about her product called GoldieBlox. But I think for now, again, this is Mark Carson. He is the founder and president of Fat Brain Toys and Fat Brain Toy Co. And we're very lucky to have him join us today. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly with another guest, I believe Joe Brogy, our magician and mentalist, who is here on stage today and performing all sorts of mind-blowing tricks. He'll be joining us shortly. Thanks. Hi, welcome back to Celebration of My Nebraska. My name is Eric Quam, and I am here with magician, illusionist, and mentalist Joe Brogy. And I got to tell you, folks, we just watched his show, and I've been over bugging him all morning to do really cool magic tricks. And I've always been a fan of magic and illusion, but this guy is amazing. He is very just great, really cool. So, Joe, let's just start things out by asking what type of work do you do?
Yeah, well, I got my start in doing kind of like walk around, close up magic, and that's a genre of magic that's a little bit different than what most people think of. I think a lot of people, when they think of magic, they think of like rabbits coming out of hats and scarves, which is a completely different type of magic. It's enjoyable. I don't do that kind of thing. I do a little bit more close up in your hands, in your face. Mind reading and sleight of hand type of tricks. Yeah.
So, what separates you from other magicians?
Well, I do something called mentalism, and mentalism, not a lot of magicians will do that. They typically set themselves apart from either a mentalist or a magician. It's a type of magic that happens within the person's mind, and it uses psychology and misdirection and different combinations of things to achieve what looks like mind reading.
So when I attended my first gathering for Gardner down in Atlanta last April of 2012, I quickly learned that math is a huge part of magic, and I never put those two together. It just never crossed my mind. But then again, I'm not typically a math person.
Yeah.
So tell us why math plays such an important role in magic.
Well, actually, some of the very first card tricks I learned use math. I think there's a lot of interesting ways that you can use math for card tricks, such as, I would show it to you right now, but it's kind of a lengthy process. But
Sure.
Especially in like card tricks and mentalism, even we use a lot of number type experiments, whether it's having people think of different dates or something like that, and you can actually use math to manipulate somebody to think of something specific that you couldn't use using basic psychology or different misdirection types that solely are based on math, actually.
Did you have anything else?
As far as I could show you something, but it'd be a little bit lengthy. Math tricks tend to be a little bit more of have you think of a number and then we'll plus 43 cards and then it gets to something else. But yeah, definitely, it's very important in learning different types of card tricks and whatnot.
How long ago did you get into magic, and tell us about what inspired you to do this?
Oh man, I started doing magic when I was about 8 years old. I think I saw a magician on television. On that, they used to have the world's greatest magic, and there was a guy named Peter Marvey, and he did all this crazy manipulation where he made things appear and whatnot, and it kind of stuck with me, and I was pretty obsessed with it until I was about 13, and then I kind of stopped doing it for a couple years, and then by the time I was a freshman in high school, I got back into it fully and started doing it as a part-time career. And then
Something just blew up.
Yeah, there was an explosion just now.
So going back to that, so you said you sort of got away from it between 13 and then freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
Did you lose the touch?
I don't know if I lost the touch. I think I was actually very heavily into science fair in my my 7th and 8th grade year, and I kind of didn't do it as much. And actually, full circle, I did a lot of things with Rubik's Cubes. I was very into Rubik's Cubes and different puzzles and like that and stuff like that. And I think those type of mind puzzles are what kind of attracted me back getting into magic and stuff like that.
That is a perfect segue into the next question I had for you, which was what types of games, toys, and puzzles did you play with as a child? And maybe did those specific toys that you'll talk about lead you into a career path into magic?
Definitely, yeah. My 8th grade year, this is going to sound really nerdy, but I did a project called Problem Solving and Analysis using a Rubik's Cube, where I kind of created a different alternative method to solving the Rubik's Cube quicker, and I would kind of amaze people by being the nerdiness that I was, by solving it really quickly, and people seem to be amazed by that, because it looks like a complex puzzle, and that's kind of what magic is. It seems like a complex puzzle from a distance, but then when you kind of look into it deeper, you see that there's steps to solve it, and once you get this step, then you move on to the next step, and it kind of has a relation to magic, I would say.
I'm being told that we have to wrap things up here,
Okay.
but however, we are all dying to see a magic trick.
Okay, should we do a quick magic trick?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll do. I was gonna do a card trick, but we'll switch it and just do a little mind trick. How's that sound? Okay, I've got something right here. What I want you to do is, I'm gonna grab this as well. Is just think of an object in your minds, okay? And can we both? I'll have you hang on to this. How about?
All right.
And you can use this, and we're both gonna do a little something called a drawing test.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna hold this away, and you hold yours up.
Okay.
Okay. So I just want you to think of an object. Okay. And I want you to do your best. Could you draw this object if you have something in your mind?
I could try.
You
I
could
could
try.
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna have you do your best, and I'm gonna do my best.
All right.
At
All
drawing just a simple shape. So whatever you're thinking of right now, go ahead and do
All
that.
right.
Okay. And I'll look away if you guys think that I'm cheating by any means. I don't want to look at you, so I'll just hold it up here. Look at me for a second. Okay. Yeah, I'm awful at this. I don't know if I... Okay, I think I'm... Do you have yours?
I do.
Is there motion
I'm all
in
done.
this? Is there a certain type of motion?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, at first I was thinking of like a square, but then I saw more of a triangle. Is there like kind of a triangular?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, but there's motion in this. It's not a pyramid, is it?
It's not a pyramid.
What were you thinking of? What were you thinking of?
A swing set.
Could you show me? Actually, I was thinking of a swing as well. Can you guys see that?
Man.
That I had one, but that's pretty darn close.
Mind equals blowing right there, folks.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Joe,
It worked out
thank
very
you.
well. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Have a good one.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
We are moving forward quickly. Next up, we are very, very excited to be welcoming Debbie Sterling, and she is here from all the way from San Francisco. And Debbie has become quite the sweetheart of the toy industry this year. Come on in, Debbie. We're going to keep this casual. Debbie is the inventor of a wonderful new engineering toy called GoldieBlox and the Spinning Machine. That's the correct title of it. Is that right?
Yep.
Thank you. Well, welcome to Celebration of 9 Nebraska. We're very excited to have you here, Debbie. So let's talk about, Fat Brain Toys customers were really, really excited to get their hands on the product. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I studied mechanical engineering and product design at Stanford. And
Never heard of it.
Yep. But I was one of few women in the program, and it always bugged me. And later on, I was finding that girls start to lose interest in math and science and engineering at a young age, and I wanted to do something about it and kind of show girls how awesome engineering is, because I found out about it pretty late in life.
So when did you decide that a toy was going to be the thing to extend knowledge to young ladies?
I first had the idea. I was actually talking with a girlfriend of mine who also studied mechanical engineering, and I asked her what got her interested in engineering. And she said that it was playing with her older brother's hand-me-down construction toys.
Really?
Legos, Lincoln Logs, Erector sets. She grew up with those, and they just got her interested in building and math and science. And by the time it came to choose a major, she always wanted to be an engineer. And the moment she said that, I thought back to my childhood. And in our house, those were considered boys' toys. And my sister and I never wanted anything to do with them.
No.
So the moment that she said that, it just was like a flash of lightning or something went off in my head, where I thought, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity to come up with a toy, a construction toy that would help develop spatial skills and start developing an interest in engineering, but really through a female perspective. I thought that would be a great way to get girls interested in the topics.
Yeah, it's interesting. We just had Mark Carson, the founder of Fat Brain Toys, here, and one of the questions we had talked about was, is there a gender gap between between boys and girls when it comes to science, technology, engineering, art, and math? And it's fascinating because, well, go ahead and talk about that a little bit. What you found?
Well, there is a pretty significant gender gap. Actually, only 11% of engineers in the U.S. are women.
11%?
Only 11%. Less than 25% of graduates in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math are women. and the numbers aren't getting any better. In fact, they've gotten worse since the 80s.
Why do you think that is?
I think that engineering is portrayed in this really intimidating way. It is portrayed as it is a male-dominated field, period. But when we look around even at our pop culture and we see characters like Bob the Builder and Sid the Science Kid and Bill Nye the Science Guy and Thomas the Train and Handy Manny, I mean, all of these kind of math, science, and engineer characters, even from a young age, are the boys' club.
Yep. And what are the girls doing? They're playing dress up.
And the girls are playing dress up and princess and pop stars and beauty queens. And so this cultural shift starts happening from when we're really young. And I mean, I can speak firsthand because I was one of those girls who never ever would have given engineering a try if it wasn't for that one math teacher I was lucky enough to have who told me that I would like it. And I thought she was crazy, but I gave it a try.
She. Oh, yeah, that's cool. So tell us about GoldieBlox as a company.
Yeah, so GoldieBlox started as me in my living room in San Francisco making prototypes out of thread spools and ribbon and clay. And very quickly has turned into sort of a phenomenon, and we've been growing. So I first launched the concept on Kickstarter a year ago, and it's just exploded. And ever since then, we've been getting all of this press and all of these orders. And now we've just hired our 13th employee, and we have a real office.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we, what I'm most proud of is our team. I've been hiring just incredibly talented artists and engineers and toy makers, and everyone has so much to add. Every product that we put out from now on is just going to be better and better than the last, so it's really fun.
And I want to get to that in a second, but first of all, I want to ask you, when did you know GoldieBlox was going to be a successful toy? At what point?
I think I knew during my very, very early prototype testing with kids. I didn't have a lot of money, so I just put together a working prototype with whatever I could find, thread spools, yarn, ribbon, clay. And I took the prototype around and I was testing, putting it in kids' living rooms and watching them play. And I was nervous at first because I'd walk in and there would be this girl in her princess costume and her tutu, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's never gonna like this.
Yeah.
What have I done? And time and time again, as I did the tests, I would learn so much, and I would keep fixing it and tweaking it and improving it until toward the end of the tests, we had this one little girl playing with GoldieBlox, and she was, had been problem solving for a while and was trying to figure it out, and finally she got it to work, and just her eyes lit up, and she was so joyous, and she just screamed, "Daddy, you've got to come in here, you've got to see what I made, it's so cool." And I think that started to happen over and over again, and that's when I knew that it was going to work.
That's a great story. It's a great story. What does the future hold for Goldie and all of her friends?
So now we've got a team in place, and we are just cranking on new stories, new adventures, new characters, new engineering principles. So we're working on building a whole series of toys and stories. And there are more coming down the road, and in fact we have a brand new one coming out for Christmas.
We can't wait. We can't wait. And for those of you watching, Fat Brain Toys is very, very proud to carry GoldieBlox. You can check it out and learn all about Goldie, the girl who loves to build, at fatbraintoys.com. Debbie, thank you so much for being with us. We certainly appreciate that. And safe travels home. Thanks for being at Celebration of Mind.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in just a few moments. Thanks. Hi, welcome back to Celebration of Mind, Nebraska. We're excited to be here. We are broadcasting live from the Strategic Air Command Museum of Space. What's the official name of this place? Strategic Air and Space Museum. Thank you, Nick, our producer. I appreciate that. We're broadcasting live halfway between Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska, and we are excited to have you watching us. Joining me right now is Paul Hildebrandt and Julie Litt, both from Zom Tool, who braved the Longmont, Colorado floods to be with us. We really, really appreciate that. For those of you who don't know, Zom Tool is based in Longmont, Colorado, and they experienced some pretty massive flooding. How long ago was that? A couple weeks ago? About a month ago. But they're here with us, and they are building a super cool structure out of Zom Tool here today at Celebration of Mind, Nebraska. So let's start with Paul. Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about how Zom Tool was developed? How did it all start?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's the stuff of legend, I guess, or myth. The story goes that the hippies, or actually pre-hippies, artists started a collective or a commune where they could live in their own art, Drop City, Colorado, and it was supposedly the first hippie commune, and they basically whacked the tops off of cars and turned them into sculptures because they wanted to live in their artwork. And
you thought, let's make a toy of this.
Well, I came in a little bit later, but yeah, more or less. I mean, Steve Baer really takes the credit because he discovered the geometry based on his work with the Marrow system, which is a simpler space frame system that he discovered when he was, well, he learned of it. It already existed. He learned of it when he was in Germany in the Army. And so Steve Baer and Clark Rickard, who started Drop City, got together, and out of that, eventually Zom Tool was born.
So about what year was that?
Well, Drop City I think was started in 64, 65, and I think Bear got involved in the later 60s, 67, 68, and then he actually came up with the underlying geometry, discovered it, and made something called the Zom toy, and he wanted to use it for architecture. Thought it was the architecture of the 21st century.
Very cool story.
Yeah.
Very, very cool story. Tell us about the company mission for those of our viewers out there who really don't know anything about Zom Tool. Give us a 3-minute explanation of all things Zom Tool.
Oh my God.
Not to put any pressure on you.
Yeah, oh my, I should know the mission by heart, but it keeps changing on me. So, I mean, I think basically our mission is to get this in the hands of children because they're the scientists and engineers of the future. It's already used by Nobel Prize winners in their research and mathematicians. There's no Nobel Prize for math, but Roger Penrose is another user. Linus Pauling, the double Nobel Prize winner that got the Nobel Prize in chemistry and for peace. Daniel Schechtman, a chemist that discovered quasicrystals. Richard Smalley and Harry Croda discovered buckyballs, and they've all used Zom Tool. In fact, some of them actually used it in their research. But as they say, science advances funeral by funeral, and so we're really trying to get it in the hands of kids because it's sort of a new way of looking at the structure of the universe.
We had an interesting conversation last night. We went out for dinner, and after dinner conversation led to sort of a, how do I put it? The American education system hasn't really embraced Zom Tool. Children in America, you were explaining to us how it's a much more widely known toy outside the United States. Why is that?
Maybe first I should have Julie talk to that because she's a teacher, and then I'll pick it up.
That's a great idea.
Well,
Just speak from your perspective.
I think a lot of teachers are using Zom Tool who are aware of the need for things that kids can manipulate in the United States to learn geometry through manipulation of actual ideas versus just using worksheets, but there's not enough, and that's why I think it is used a lot more in some other countries where math is demonstrated differently than we necessarily do here in the U.S., and I think that's something that's continually being looked at and hopefully modified and changes are being made.
I think I'd add to that most countries have a national curriculum, and the United States has sort of traditionally been a loose confederation of 20,000 or more school districts. And right now, there's a movement afoot to have a common core curriculum for math. And I think that will help. It'll move things in the right direction, but things are moving slowly.
So the reason we're all here at Celebration of Mind is to honor what tomorrow would have been the 99th birthday of Martin Gardner. Why is Martin Gardner important to children?
That's an interesting question. As a child, I used to read Scientific American, and I think his mathematical amusements at that time were sort of above my head. But he's doing the same thing. He's looking at ways of popularizing math, which, as I said earlier today, probably couldn't be taught much worse than it's being taught right now. And I think Martin Gardner is, from his kind of diverse background, I believe he originally was a minister, like Fred Rogers. Mr. Rogers was also a Presbyterian minister, I think. I don't remember exactly, but Martin Gardner then became a journalist and then got interested in math and science. And so it's coming from kind of the everyman's perspective,
right.
And looking at the world. Math is full of puzzles. In fact, life is full of puzzles, and math is a wonderful tool for sort of untangling the enigmas. So I think that's a good approach. Do you have anything to add?
I just think it's important to celebrate his life because he was such a visionary, and passing that along to the next generations to show what he contributed, not just science, but math and art and magic, and just combining all these wonderful things to get kids to spark their imaginations for continuing education in the sciences and math.
Fat Brain Toys was one of the early adopters of Zom Tool. We've carried it since the start. We're coming up on our 11th anniversary at fatbraintoys.com, and we carry a wide variety of the Zom Tool products. And the great thing about Zom Tool is you can start out at a $14.95 or $18.95 price point with Zom Bubbles, and go all the way up to $154, I believe, with the Zom Creator sets.
And that's a good price, by the way.
It is a good price, you're right.
Yeah.
Why should a parent invest in Zom Tool as a toy for their child or children?
Well, like they say, if you think education is expensive, try the alternative. Try ignorance. The kids really need the best tools they can to solve the problems that we're handing them. And I think Zom Tool is one of the finest tools. I mean, not that I'm biased or anything, but as you know, if I see something that I think is really cool, I'm going to tell you about it, whether I have anything to do with it or not. And it's been a long marriage for me with Zom Tool, but I'm still fascinated.
Julie, from an educator standpoint?
I think there's a lot of factors as far as investing in Zom Tool. You're investing in something made in the USA. We use wind power at the plant. I think it's a great toy. Having a child that I bought a set for when he was 5, he's in college now, and he still comes home and uses it. So I think it is an investment because it's something that they don't outgrow. With a lot of other toys, it's something the kids might outgrow, but I have not seen that. And we're here. We were over playing with it ourselves. So there's no age limit on the upper end.
It's what we in the toy industry call an evergreen toy, right?
Evergreen.
Yep, absolutely. It's just one that they
Greener
can,
than green.
and especially with Zom Tool, 100% wind power. That's absolutely amazing. I learned that last night, and I applaud you for that. That is wonderful. Excellent. So you're here today, and you're building one of your super cool creations. Tell us what you're building.
Oh boy. Well, the Sierpinski tetrahedron is basically The Sierpinski tetrahedron. It's a three-dimensional version of the Sierpinski triangle, which is just a kind of a fractal, where if you take a triangle and put a triangle inside of it, and then you put triangles inside of some of the triangles so that it has a fractal aspect, and you keep doing that, you end up with this thing. And you can do that in 3 dimensions. I imagine you could do it in 4 dimensions and do a projection of it with Zom Tool. I don't know. And right now we're adding on to it, you know, so because we've built it in a cubic lattice, and then I'm adding another shape that's got 90 faces called a rhombic aneaconahedron to it, because it's got now it'll be made out of squares and triangles. Now it'll have a kind of a spherical aspect too.
Excellent. Wow. Pop quiz. What is your favorite Martin Gardner puzzle?
Well, there's a book that he wrote. I think it was something to the effect, did Adam and Eve have belly buttons? I kind of like that as a question.
The answer?
I can't top that.
It's a rant, pretty much, against the creationists, but don't make me go there.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up our interview here with Paul Hildebrandt, the founder and president of Zom Tool.
One of many founders, many inventors, and yes, I'm president, but I prefer to be the chief visionary officer.
That's lovely. And Julie Litt, who is the sales manager for Zom Tool. Thank you both so much for joining us at Celebration of My Nebraska. We hope your experience has been enjoyable. We certainly have appreciated you making the trip over here and sharing your beautiful, beautiful toy with us today. We really do. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Eric.
Thank you, Eric, and thanks to Fat Brain Toys.
Yes.
We will be back in 5 minutes and with some more fascinating interviews and discussion. Thanks for joining us. Hi, we're back here at Celebration of Mind, Nebraska, at the Strategic Air and Space Museum, halfway between the great cities of Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska. Thanks for joining us. My name is Eric Quam. I'm with Fat Brain Toys. And joining us now is Phil Hawkins. He's a local artist based out of Omaha, correct?
That's right.
Phil, what the heck are you holding on to?
This is a three-dimensional sculpture I built, basically made out of PVC and reflective material. And these shapes, pyramids, I build a lot of, so I have some interaction piece that a lot of demonstration and kids are painting on right now with too. So.
Absolutely, yeah. My two oldest daughters were busy painting some of these larger versions of these. So tell us what you're building today.
I built 2 totem pole posts, 4-sided with pyramids that people have individually painted each pyramid, and I applied all the pyramids as we were building them and painting them. So yeah, it was a fun interaction piece with the kids. And the kids are still painting it right now, actually.
What will happen to the 2 totem poles after today?
That's a good question. I don't know. They might be here for a little bit. It's really hard to say, but I mean, hopefully they don't just get tossed because they're a piece of art the kids got to interact with and create. So
I think they'd look really cool in the Fat Brain Toys office. What do you think?
why not? Yeah.
All right. We'll load them up and bring them. We'll give them a good home. Okay. So tell us about the math behind this.
There's a lot of angles and a lot of constructing that comes from model before I create the product, because I have to build it made out of like usable products like cardboard and wood and things that are more easy to build before I get into this process. And then this is more of the finished process. So it's a lot of mathematical angle, repeat, and very precise cutting and building. It's just very technical and very just tedious.
Phil, what's your background?
I got a bachelor's in arts management, graphic design, associate's degree, and I've been doing art my whole life, so everything's come together and continued on since I was a kid. So,
But right now your focus is mostly on this sort of mathematical angular math sculpture. When did you start doing this?
about 4 years ago, I created the concept from cardboard first, and then after I built a large installation with a lot of this on a very big scale, and then I was wondering what kind of durable material I could use to build it as more of a finish, more long lasting, and then that came in right after that, so about 3 to 4 years now. So.
And you said this is a polycarbonate?
PVC.
Oh,
so,
PVC, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of PVC out there, but it cuts perfect, and it leaves those clean edges, and it works well for my process. And it's not something I was taught. It's kind of self-taught, basically, from what I built from cardboard to start with. So.
Not really sure if you can see online, but it has this really, really cool effect where it's almost I don't want to say lenticular, but very, very shiny on some of the sides, and then on the other sides it's this black graphite-looking material. Very, very cool.
It gives you the reflection and all the angles of the light traveling through, and it bounces off into your eyes in multiple angles. So that's kind of where the mathematics plays in, I think. And it's more just visual for me, but that comes out in math in a way. So it's pretty interesting.
Another way math is applied to art. Again, we have Phil Hawkins, a local Omaha artist, here today with us at Celebration of Mind, Nebraska. Phil, thanks so much for stopping by and sharing your art with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.
Thanks. We'll be back momentarily. Hi, welcome back to Celebration of Mind Nebraska. My name is Eric with Fat Brain Toys, and we are broadcasting live on the World Wide Web at the Strategic Air and Space Museum, halfway between the great cities of Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska. And joining us right now are Eric and Brent from Bit Circus, who just had an incredible presentation here at Celebration of Mind. And we are very, very excited to welcome them here. This is the first time you've joined us at Celebration of Mind Nebraska. Tell us a little bit about yourselves individually first. Eric is now accepting a cell phone call. Eric, who is the call from?
Unknown.
Ooh, the 213 area code in Los Angeles, California. We just broadcast that phone number live over the internet. That's great. Eric, tell us, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do. You can just go ahead and take the
You
mic.
bet. So my background's in robotics, and even though I don't build real robots full time anymore, I'm using all the same techniques from robotics to build our carnival games. You know, I started off building art and moved to games, and then just got more and more focused. Now we're building awesome carnival games.
Excellent. And Brent.
Yeah, so I studied computer science, but I've always been fascinated with games, video games, physical games, card games, whatnot, and so I've been building games really most of my life, and but also really focused on entrepreneurship and sort of what's the business side of making sure there's something that is sustainable.
All right. And you are based in?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, yeah. All right. So how did well, let's talk about Bit Circus. Tell us, and please feel free to go into some detail, because it truly is, it's a fascinating, I don't want to call it an experiment, but it's some cool groundbreaking stuff that you're doing.
So you ask where we're based, and to understand a little bit about where we're based and what we do, it helps to describe our workshop,
Okay.
which is a crazy 5,000 square foot warehouse with 50-foot ceilings. It's one of the oldest buildings in Los Angeles. It actually used to be a steam power plant, and it's got that feel to it. You know, weird pipes and weird places and windows to nowhere and old machines lying around. It's an awesome, awesome place to work, and we have absolutely filled it with tools and raw materials and, increasingly, working games. So what we're doing in there is we are spending all of our time building carnival games. We take materials that we have lying around, or we go out and find things off the shelf. We use a lot of commercial off-the-shelf cameras and motors and encoders, things that everybody has access to. And we put them together in interesting ways and in fun ways, creating physical experiences for your whole family, and we're bringing them around and showing them to people.
You forgot to mention we've also filled that warehouse with nerds.
Yes. That is
Lots of nerds. Yeah.
Tools fine, but
Tools,
nerds.
but nerds who use those tools. Yeah. It's really a fun crew. You know, I mean, we've got a physicist, roboticist, a number of computer scientists, an electrical engineer, even the woman who was responsible for a lot of the great music videos you would remember from the Beastie Boys and Love Shack and whatnot. Really a fun band of nerds. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So you're getting your show together and you're taking it on the road? Yes. Tell us a little bit about what audiences will encounter and experience with a Bit Circus performance.
So basically, for the last number of months and for the next about 8 months, we're building a bunch of our games and taking them to smaller events, parties, conferences, getting them in front of people so we can kind of constantly be iterating and testing. Around June of next year, we're going to have the first carnival in Los Angeles. It'll be a 3-day event, and it's really two sides. One side is all the high-tech amusement, right? 3 of us could be there, have a great day of playing games, concessions, all that kind of stuff, and never hear the word education, right? But something that Eric and I are both really passionate about is inspiring kids to be engineers, right? We have a ball being inventors and building this stuff and knowing about all these kind of, tools and whatnot, and we've got kind of a problem in the U.S., right? Kids don't want to be engineers right now. We've got a good friend who is building the coolest, he's got one of the coolest jobs building, so, all the interactive television and games. He can't find good engineers to do it. And so we sort of want to recast for people what it's like to be an engineer. So we've got these project-based kits that we've made that are hijack what kids already like: music, games, fashion, and then we kind of insert an engineering curriculum inside of that so that kids get to build their own stuff. So the second half of the carnival is an opportunity, is a showcase and a stage show where kids get to showcase their projects. So we've got a wearable electronics fashion show. We've got a concert of musical robots, an arcade of indie group games, and so that in addition to us bringing our games, we've given an opportunity for other people to show off their creations.
Very,
so
very cool.
gonna be a lot of fun.
So basically, one could say that you are doing for the world of engineering what Martin Gardner did for the world of math with his rolling out math to the masses with recreational mathematics. So you're following in some giant footsteps.
Very happy with that comparison.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Tell us about. You mentioned a bit about. I'll direct this question toward you, Eric. It's been a recurring theme we've been hearing throughout the day. We've spoken with Paul Hildebrandt from Zom Tool. We've spoken with Debbie Sterling from GoldieBlox, and we hear this recurring theme of education and students, specifically in the United States, falling behind and not staying up with their counterparts from around the world. Zom Tool flourishes outside of the United States as a toy throughout Europe and Asia. There's a big gender gap we learned about from Debbie Sterling with engineering between boys and girls. How are you going to make this accessible and make engineering boring snooze? How are you going to make it cool for kids in America?
Laser beams.
Love it. Yeah.
And robots.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I mean, you can talk about all the math you want. You can talk about all the engineering and all the chemistry you want. It only comes together when you start talking about what you can do with those things. Giant lasers, giant lasers, haha. Lasers, giant robots, high voltage electricity. These sorts of subjects get people excited. You know what else gets people excited? Having fun outside, running around with their friends, doing cool stuff. And if we can engage people in those two ways, through the awesome raw materials we're using, through the awesome toys we get to play with every day, and through fun, those are two gateways to science, technology, engineering, art, and math.
Eric used a phrase a little while ago called accidental learning,
Yes.
And we really liked the idea of hey, you're having fun, you're doing stuff, and oh my gosh, you might have just learned something, right? But that it's not it really, if you have a project, if you have a goal in mind, right? It's not just abstract mathematics that's out of context. You have a reason for this math that you're going to need in order to create this thing, and so we want to really tie it to reality for these guys, and girls.
Absolutely. We talk a lot about accidental learning at Fat Brain Toys as well, which it's just so cool. We're bringing math, we're bringing engineering, we're bringing it to the masses, making it accessible. And that's really at the root of what we're trying to do. So you've talked a lot about, in general, about these carnival games. So tell us in detail about maybe one of them that each of you are most excited about. Brent, go ahead first.
Sure. Man, so we have there's a whole pile of them. One of my favorites is one we're in the throes of right now. We've taken big circus balls, right? The kind of circus balls that a clown would walk on, and we've mounted those on casters and put a little mouse underneath it. So it's effectively like the biggest trackball you've ever seen, right? So we have 6 of those, and we position them all around a big projector. And so then this is a 6-player competitive game. It could be 8, it could be 12 people. So rather than that sort of classic game with the where you're rolling the balls and you're trying to move the horses, in a race, this would now be you're moving these huge track balls as you all compete in, say, a big racing game or a big a light cycle competition.
And will the audience members be the ones who are participating in this, or is it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, these games are all for people to compete in, and we just this past weekend had an art walk at our space where we had about 5,000 people come through our space playing a bunch of games, and one of them was our room full of laser beams, right? And literally people would have to move their body as they get through this room full of laser beams, and you break a beam, a buzzer goes off, you lose time, and you're out, and so again, carnival games were about being able to a feat of strength, of dexterity or whatnot, and so we're trying to take modern technology and use some of those same approaches.
Excellent. Eric, your favorite project you're working on?
Oh yeah, we just finished our first version of the all-new and improved ring toss. So the way we did it, the classic carnival game. We've redone the ring toss in 2 different ways. One with fire and one with lasers.
It's going back to these lasers.
Can I say? Compelling. It's compelling. I'm easily amused. I'll tell you about the laser one. So what we did is we took a laser projector, we shined it at a wall, and using computer software, created rings that appear on the wall. And then kids take tennis balls, soccer balls, whatever you got, little squishy Nerf balls, right? Throw them at the wall. Try and hit the rings, right? Try and hit the targets, I guess. And every time you hit a target, the target vibrates a little bit and it emits a noise, actually a tone from the pentatonic scale. And so you hear this really creepy music playing. It's actually kind of pleasant to hear 40 kids all playing this game simultaneously. Also, 40 kids playing this game simultaneously, absolute madness. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get kids up, moving around, having fun, and this one succeeded.
I guess we could call that accidental exercise.
Yeah, very good. Another area where the United States is falling behind. Well, thank you both so very much for joining us here at Celebration of Mind Nebraska. We are delighted to have Bit Circus with us, a laser nerd and a robot nerd, I guess we could say. And again, Bit Circus will be making its debut in June of 2014 in Los Angeles. And then you'll be touring the nation, I assume?
Yep, we'll go to San Francisco after that. We're in talks with a bunch of cities for where we're going to go right after that, and we'd love to bring it to your town.
And thank you so much to Fat Brain Toys for bringing us out here. This has been a fantastic experience so far. We really appreciate it.
This is such a cool facility. We're surrounded by all these huge airplanes and all of your guys' awesome toys. This is really special.
Thank you very much. And if anyone out there watching wants to learn more about Bit Circus, they can find out more at
2bitcircus.com. TWOBITCIRCUS.
Excellent. Thank you both so much. We appreciate it. That's going to wrap things up for Celebration of Mind Nebraska. After one more interview with the with the Air and Space Museum. So we'll be back momentarily with Angela. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to Celebration of Mind Nebraska. My name is Eric, and I'm with Fat Brain Toys. I am extremely pleased to be joined by Angela Raber of the Air and Space Museum here in just between Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska. And as you know, there are many Celebration of Mind events going on all around the world over the course of the next couple of days. I would venture to guess that Celebration of Mind Nebraska probably has the coolest place to host our celebration here at this beautiful facility. Angela is the Director of Marketing, and I would love for you to tell us more about this museum.
Okay. Well,
We have a huge collection of aircraft and spacecraft here at the Strategic Air and Space Museum. We have over 300,000 square feet facility, which we can bring in a lot of traveling exhibits, do a lot of presentations, do a lot of demonstrations, host corporate outings, events, you name it, we can make it happen here. But at the heart of all of this is really science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Because without that, we would not have the aircraft that we have here. We would not have the spacecraft that we have here. So really at the heart of everything is the STEAM that we've been talking so much about today.
Absolutely. For those of you sitting and watching this on your computers at home or wherever you are, I wish I could take this camera and walk remotely through this facility because it is absolutely mind-blowing. There are things that have been in space. There are massive airplanes. How high is the ceiling here?
Oh my goodness,
If you were to venture to guess.
that is a great question. I mean, it is tall. It's phenomenal. We have a inflatable space shuttle slide that is 36 feet high, and so we can easily fit that in here. But the ceiling goes on way past that.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, a lot of restoration of vehicles goes on. Talk a little bit about that. That's one of the missions of the museum.
Sure. We just released our B-29, which was our last restoration project last September, a year ago, the Lucky Lady. That took about 6 years to complete, and currently we're working on the C-54, which is our current restoration project in the restoration hangar. And it really happens with the support and the donations of our members, of our donors, really helping us to fund that project because we are a nonprofit. We do not receive federal funding or government support, so we do rely on the generous donors and supporters of the museum to help us carry our mission through and to restore these aircraft back to their former glory that they once were.
And Angela, am I incorrect when I say all of the restoration is done through volunteers?
No, you're not incorrect. You're absolutely correct. We have three full-time restoration facility crew members, but then we have over 40 volunteers. I think maybe even more than that actually help with the restoration project. So we rely heavily on our volunteers.
They are a very integral part of what you're doing here. We are also lucky enough to have Time Celebration of Mind Nebraska this year with the current exhibit that's going on at the Strategic Air and Space Museum, and that exhibit is called Math Alive. And how perfect to tie that in with Martin Gardner's recreational math.
Yep.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the current exhibit?
Yep. Well, Math Alive opened in 2012 at the Smithsonian Institute. And they had record number attendance. So for a museum of that caliber to receive record number attendance from this exhibit, that's pretty telling. And we're pretty excited to have this exhibit here. But really, when you say math, people kind of cringe or they get a little nervous about it. They feel like, oh, I might not be smart enough to participate in that exhibit. This exhibit is for everybody. It's for the entire family. It's from the very young to the young at heart. It explores areas such as skateboarding, snowboarding, rock climbing, all the things that we enjoy doing, fashion, dance, video game creation, and it shows that mathematical component behind it. So when kids say, am I really going to use all this math they're teaching me in school? Well, you do every day, and this really opens their eyes to the real world math applications that there are.
Again, speaking to the mission of Martin Gardner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool. Why are places like the Strategic Airspace Museum so important to communities across the country, not just here in the Omaha-Lincoln area, but across the country and world for that matter?
Well, we strive to be an extension of the classroom, really bringing hands-on learning experiences to the students and teachers so that it can really open their minds and their eyes to a new world and new possibilities, a world of exploration and discovery. Our mission here is to ignite the thrill of innovation and discovery. So we really appreciate that opportunity to partner with the local communities and schools to partner to be an extension to really bring the worlds of STEAM to life for everyone.
Very cool. Pop quiz. What is your favorite airplane here at the museum?
Well, my favorite aircraft is the SR-71. It is the first aircraft you see when you walk into the museum, but I feel it's the most awe-inspiring and it has the most impact because of the angle that it looks like it's coming right at you when you walk into the museum. So that's my favorite.
Great. And if people out there watching want to learn more about the Strategic Air and Space Museum, tell them where to go on the World Wide Web.
Our web address is www.sasmuseum.com. You can find out more about us there. We're also on Facebook and Twitter.
Excellent. Again, that's www.sasmuseum.
Museum.
I'm sorry, Angela. sasmuseum.com. That's the Strategic Air and Space Museum, a true jewel here in the Omaha-Lincoln metro area. Again, we are just pleased as punch to be able to host Celebration of Mind Nebraska here. And thank you so much, Angela, for being a wonderful host. We appreciate it, and we hope to have this collaboration for many years to come.
We do too.
Thank you. That's going to do it here for Celebration of Mind Nebraska. We certainly appreciate you joining us wherever you may be. Again, if you have any other questions, we can answer those later on this evening or into tomorrow. Feel free to tweet or post to Facebook to us. We'd love to hear from you and feedback. Again, have a great Celebration of Mind weekend and Monday, and thanks for joining us here at Celebration of Mind Nebraska.